The Wedding Thinners podcast. Listen to our podcast. The buffet's closed. Wear smaller clothes. Well, ladies and gents, here we are. This is episode 15 of the Wedding Thinners podcast. Thank you very much if you're tuning in and you're a repeat listener. I really appreciate your listening. Thanks for all the support. We're getting a lot of messages from people as well, which is amazing. So to anybody that's been sharing and has been following, it's wicked to have you on board, and even better when you're sharing it and liking it and commenting on it and all that jazz as well. So keep doing those good things. Thank you very much. Today, joining me on the podcast, we've got two very, very fascinating, amazingly inspirational guys. We've got Kofi Kyei. Say hi, Kofi.
Hello, everybody.
There's Kofi. He's right there. And we've got the ever fabulous Paul James. Say hi, Paul.
Hello, how you doing?
Now, Kofi, don't be offended by the fact that I didn't give you the ever fabulous, because we know just how fabulous you are based on the very fact that you're doing something quite as amazing as you're doing. But I really appreciate that both of you are taking the time out of your evenings to join me and have a chat about all things rough and tough, if you like, whatever. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Paul. Let's go there first of all. Who are you? What do you do, Paul?
Okay, I'm Paul, and I am a musician of sorts, which means I do lots of different things, really. Mainly, I sing in a couple of bands, and I compose music, but I teach and lecture and things like that as well. But yeah, that's kind of what I do, although recently I haven't been doing that a lot because I haven't been allowed to. So I'm basically looking after my daughter at the moment, which is my full-time thing, which is amazing. And I'm quite lucky to be in that position, I think. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Very cool. And same over to you, Kofi.
Yeah, so my name's Kofi, and actually when I grow up, I want to be Paul because he sounds super cool. He sounds really cool. I have no musical talent whatsoever, but I'm a married dad of 3 kids. I'm quite into my cycling. When I'm not cycling or running Ride for Unity, I work in the recruitment sector for a financial services company based in London, although I've only been to the office once since joining.
But don't tell them.
No,
they don't know.
I think they might know. They might know.
Hey, Paul, this is really useful for both you and I, because obviously as a musician myself, our job's being unviable. Kofi can get us a job maybe in financial services. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know what to do, but yeah, that'd be great. I mean,
is there a job for us? Could we do something? Just entertain in the lift. Just sing in the lift.
Yeah.
We might need voiceovers and stuff like that.
Well,
so
yeah.
You never know, right?
That's it. Well, listen, you know where to come now, mate. That's what I'm saying. We're here.
We're
ready and we're waiting. And it's interesting because obviously, Paul, you have one little one at home with you. I have 2. And Kofi, I don't quite know how you are still existing with 3 young people in your house.
Yeah.
Because, man, that's tough. I mean, I love my kids dearly, and I'm never going to sit here and complain about it. But it's still, as much as I'm sure Paul is loving it and the experience of doing it and growing with your daughter, it's tough. It's very, very tough at the moment. But
it is. I've got to say that I feel quite lucky though.
As do I.
I think that the ages that I've got. So my eldest is 11, then I've got a 9-year-old, then a 6-year-old. And I think they're quite self-sufficient, and school's been good with interactive learning. So that helps. I think if I had small charges that were trying to kill themselves every 2 seconds, it might be a bit trickier.
Yes. I'm pretty sure I found my youngest had somehow climbed onto the TV cabinet today. I was like, Daddy! I was like, okay, you can get down from there now. Please get down. And of course you take him down and he's angry because you've taken him off of his high pedestal.
Harmony's going through a stage where she announces she's got a good idea, and it's very seldomly a good idea. I've got a good idea, Daddy, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think the cat's going to like that, or
we haven't got any lighters, darling.
Exactly that. Yeah. So she keeps me on my toes for sure. Yeah, having a 2-year-old is, like I said, lovely but exhausting. But yeah.
I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they are brilliant. They are both brilliant entertainment, amazingly entertaining. But yeah, it's tough. It's tiring. That's all it is, really. But anyway, this is not the dads complaining about their children podcast. And let's well, I'm certainly not, and I'm sure you two are not either. I'm not complaining about either of my kids. They're both amazing. So we're fortunate to have that, I think, in our lives at the moment. That entertainment is constant, isn't it? Kofi, just tell me a little bit then about your Ride for Unity. It's, one of the reasons why you're here today, just chatting about that. And we should say at this point, a big thank you to Steve Hollander for getting us hooked up and sort of linking us together. So thank you, Steve. And I know that Steve listens whilst running. So keep going, Steve. You can do it. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Ride for Unity. What is it? And so where did it come from as well, buddy?
Yeah, so Ride for Unity started in June last year. And what it is it's a global cycling community now. It's become a bit like a family, really. And I started it really because it was after George Floyd was murdered. I just felt compelled to do something, to kind of come off the bench and be proactive, because at the time, it put me in a bit of a funk, if I'm honest. I knew that police brutality had happened in the past, but typically, kind of after a couple of weeks or so, the sort of anger or whatever dissipates, you go back to your normal life. But this time, I think maybe the manner of which he died, also the timing of it, when everyone's trying to hustle to stay alive, it just felt so futile. And I think you probably relate to this being parents as well. I think what got me was when I saw a picture of him with his daughter, and that look that he had with her was just what I or you would have of our kids. And I just thought, what a waste, what are we going to, what can you say to her? So effectively, I was in a bit of a funk, and I thought to myself, when I looked on social media, there was a lot of anger. It was kind of like quite polarizing. It seemed to be like, if you were black, you get it. If you're not, you don't get it. And coming from a pretty large multicultural family, I just thought, there's actually more that unites us than doesn't. So what can I do to bring people together at this time, and just remind folks, if they needed reminding, that's something that is very much still alive and kicking, and try and encourage people to use the spirit of cyclists to support one another, come together at a time of need, really. So that's a bit about the genesis, and I could tell you more about what we actually do.
Oh, we will definitely come on to that, mate. It's an absolutely fascinating concept, and I really love the fact that something so positive, something so and I don't mean this disrespectfully, something so simple, in terms of it's, your cycling came from something so horrific. And yeah, you're totally right. I think that there was it's fair to say worldwide there was a real anger is doesn't feel like an appropriate word for what had happened. And I like you say, I think historically when stuff like that has happened, it's always kind of been angry for a week or so, and then it's you're totally right, it's just disappeared. But
I think as well, like it sounds like it's like a really important thing to do, because I think the reminding everyone that the unity side of things is so important, as because everything at the moment feels like division, everything feels like polarizing, everything feels like pushing people into certain places and boxes and stuff. So it's really good to have things that remind everyone that we can be
one,
be together. Yeah, exactly.
And that's in fact like the slogan, or whatever you want to call it, is like, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, together we ride.
Nice.
Really simply, like that's it.
I like that.
If you like a bike, I like a bike. We're pals. So that's I didn't create it, but that's the ethos of cyclists that I've come across on the road. That we just help each other out. Like, you break down, you help each other out, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are, orientation. None of that matters. And I thought, what, the world could
do something.
It could be a rallying cry for people, and that's where it's come from.
I don't think it helped at the time either that in America they had somebody who was running things that was quite so inflammatory and well, dare I say, stupid, really. It didn't help, did it, at all? And again, that's putting it lightly, really. That certainly stoked the flames, and there were so many times during that whole period where I remember just sitting back thinking, this isn't right. Like, surely he actually didn't say that. There's got to be some error. But
I felt like I was in a cartoon.
I felt like it was all part of a ploy. Do you remember that Joaquin Phoenix time when he went a bit mad and everyone was like, oh, he's really bad on drugs and stuff, and he grew his hair and he was a bit crazy, and that actually he went on Letterman a couple of times, and then suddenly the second time he was on Letterman, he was like, actually, this has all been part of a film, it's all been an elaborate hoax. And I felt like that was what was going to happen with Trump. Like, we'd get 2 years in and be like, sorry folks, it's all been part of a reality show. But sadly not. But he's gone. Whee! So we should celebrate that, most definitely. And I'd like to know more about Ride for Unity in a little bit. I think it's such a fascinating concept, and like I say, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but it's such a simple thing. Like you say, like it's a community that you can take globally, and that feeling of oneness, if you like, exists no matter in the world wherever you are. If if you're riding a bike, you're sort of looking out for each other. So yeah, we'll come back on to how people get involved and how it works as well, because I know it's pretty global from what I read about it, and you've got a lot of riders across the world. So and it must be really good, a good feeling to know that your message, albeit one of of unity and togetherness, is spreading. So that's a wicked thing you're doing, mate. So
thank you.
Well done.
Fascinating to watch as well. So Paul, you're a musician. I know that because I've had the pleasure of seeing you play live many times and hearing your magnificence. So just tell me a little bit about, because you've got a couple of bands, haven't you, that you're part of?
Yeah, so I've got an originals band, One Day Elliot, that I guess most people would know me from. And scarily, we've been going for about 22 years this year, which is upsetting. To the point where actually we played with a band a couple of years ago, who we were going, we've been going 20 years this year, is quite cool. And the band were like, and they looked a bit embarrassed, and it turned out that none of them were born when we had our first gig. They were all like 19. Wow. And we were just like, okay. But obviously we started the band at school and stuff at the end of, sixth form, and then, sort of rode that wave a little bit. I think, I took a gap decade, I suppose, after school, just sort of being in a rock band and like bumming about and trying to do that. But that's been really cool. I've toured in America a couple of times, and
I was going to say you didn't rest on your laurels. It wasn't like you were just sitting on your ass in a band. Being that typical musician, you were touring, you were writing, you were doing all sorts.
Yeah, we were doing a lot. We were busy. We played a lot of good shows, and I've got a lot of good memories. And there were loads of times in that when I'd see the people I went to school with who were all like lawyers and doctors and things, and I think, I wonder if I'd stuck at it, because at that time I had no sort of qualifications or anything, because I was like, I'm gonna be a rock star. But I don't regret it at all, because I just look back over all the amazing memories and the people I've met and the places I've been to, and I've got like networks of friends all over the country from touring and different bands we played with. So that's been amazing. And we're still together, although we haven't played now, obviously since March. But we still are keen to keep going. I think we had that conversation a little while going, I don't think we're going to this isn't going to be our job. And then we were like, but we still really enjoy it. And, actually let's just keep doing it, because every time we play, people still show up and sing along, and why not, and that's cool.
And your other band is...
The funny thing is, we call it the other band in that it has a different name, but it's actually exactly the same lineup, exactly the same people.
Different genre.
But inevitably we got to that point where we realised that we'd probably make more money if from our talents if we actually sort of played functions and weddings and things like that. Greatly influenced by yourself, Tom, and the wonderful stuff you do with Beer Pressure.
Thank you.
But we just thought, you know what? It's been very lazy of us to just not learn a load of covers. And, I was a bit resistant at first, I must say. I had no interest in learning Mustang Sally or Mr. Brightside or whatever. But I've got to say, it's been quite fun. So that band's called Brothers from Another Cover. And we've for a couple of years now we've been doing that circuit, and it's been a lot of fun. Again, it's the same lineup. We just play other people's songs instead, and actually get paid for stuff, which is bizarre. But So that's they're the bands, but yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And I mean, Kofi, you should check out. Well, both bands you should check out. I mean, they're absolutely brilliant. And I think if my memory serves me correctly, you did a big show for your 20th anniversary, didn't you? At the Red Lion, is that right?
We did.
Did I play?
I think you did. Yeah.
I can't remember. I think I did.
I think yes, you did. You played as part of
Ant's thing.
Ant's thing, yeah.
Yes, that's it.
You did the guest, you had a cameo appearance in his band.
That's right. Playing the keys badly.
Yeah, do you know what? That was the most I've got to say that was the most humbling experience. We said that we always said that we'd do like a little thing for our 20-year anniversary, and we worked out what the date of our first ever gig was in 1999, and then we went, right, well let's book a date and make that a thing. You know, let's just do a gig and sort of have a little bit of a celebrate. And we started asking a few of our mates' bands, going, "Oh, do you want to play with us?" and that. And then the response was huge. And
I remember you saying,
like, do you know what? A couple of bands reformed who had broken up just so they could play the show. And I've not seen the venue, the Red Lion, where we've done a lot of shows. And I know, Tom, you've played there lots of times as well. Like, I've never seen it so busy. And what was really lovely is that when we went on at the end of the night, bear in mind, I think it turned into being, it was like a mini festival in the end, like 10 bands played. All the bands that had played earlier were still all there, all still at the front, singing along with everything. And it was
I had a gig to go to. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you weren't there, Tom. You missed out because everyone else was there still, and it was really good. No, it was. Do you know what? I felt so flattered that people cared and stuff like that enough to to want to support us and do all that. And we did it for charity as well.
Well, so I think as well, it's a celebration of the fact that, you guys are still doing it. And I think well, maybe not so much now, but to have a job and to be in a place of employment for 20 years is almost not so much anymore, but that's a normal thing. But to keep a band going together and to be writing together and to be touring and playing together for such a long time as well is such a massive achievement, because it's such a multitude of different people, different emotions. Anything can happen, so yeah, I think that's partly why I was excited to be involved with it, was because you guys rock, obviously, and I really, the music you write is brilliant. I'm not just paying lip service by saying that. It's great, really good stuff. So, and at this point, guys, if you're listening, do go check it out. Please don't stop the podcast to go and check it out, obviously. Wait till the end, and I won't allow Paul to tell any links until the very end either. But you, with your event at the Lion, so that was 2 years ago. You were raising money, weren't you, for a charity close to your heart?
Well, my wife runs a charity called Square Pegs Arts, which is it's a charity that allows young people with autism or like social learning difficulties, things like that, to get involved with arts activities such as drama, theatre. I do a lot of music with them as well, and again, that started off as just a little drama group at first, but it's grown into a massive. They have like 5 different drama groups now that run it weekly. There's monthly singing workshops. There's a film club. There's a professional theatre company now they've set up to get sort of these people, potential careers in the arts and things like that. And obviously it's run by my wife, so yeah, I'm pretty close with it. I work with them quite a lot, and I mean, she's great, and they're amazing. They've won lots of awards. In fact, not to blow her trumpet on here, but too much. But she actually won a thing from the National Lottery this year during lockdown for how they managed to transfer over onto the online stuff, and they picked 13 people nationwide as champion of the arts, and so she got brilliant. To have her professional stuff done, and they put a picture in the National Portrait Gallery and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So I'm quite proud of that. I mean, you should get her on the podcast, Tom. She's interesting.
More than welcome. Anytime. Yeah. Then we'll make that happen. Definitely, that would be cool to have her on board. That'd be really cool. But again, at the end, if there's any links you want to chuck to that, feel free, and we'll share. Happy to share anything on these pages that we have, just because I think it's a real nice thing to do, that everybody knows the hard work people are putting in, and the stuff that is out there and accessible for other people as well. So, but yeah, I remember that show fondly. I don't remember how to play any of the songs I played, but it was a lot of fun. So, Paul, I know you're training as well at the moment. You're doing something for a marathon, but we're going to come back to that in just a moment. But I'd like to talk to you, Paul, about one of the sort of underlying themes with the podcast is sort of health and well-being and fitness, and for me personally, weight loss and those sorts of things. So I'm going to ask you a question which sometimes crops into the podcast, and make of it what you will, and go with it wherever you want to go with it. What's your relationship like with food?
Well, I have a very, very loving relationship with food in that I love it. And yeah, no, I mean, I also I've struggled with my weight a lot for a long time. In that I was always that kid at school that sort of never put on weight and it was fine. And then through my adult years, I sort of gradually sort of got bigger and bigger. And then yeah. I've had a bit of a kind of battle with it myself in that like I like all food really and not fussy at all. And I would I'd love to lose weight and all that kind of stuff. And I've tried a few times and it's hard because I keep coming back to it.
Oh, we do need it. I think that's we have to acknowledge that. Just whatever I try, I just keep coming back.
I just come back to all of it. That's the problem.
What are the habits that you would say are the most difficult for you to knock?
I think for me it's comfort, it's snacking and comfort for me. It's because it's one of the things I really enjoy, and my wife does as well. I think for me it's that thing of like almost like treating myself too much, or if I want something I'll have it, because especially at times like now when everything's a bit rubbish, you just think, oh well, this will make me feel better. If I when I get petrol, if I grab something to eat at the petrol station, it will make me feel a bit happier as I'm driving.
But do you actually do you find yourself not really thinking that, and it just happens? Like, do you go into the petrol station and think, I'm going to go in and buy a Yorkie because a Yorkie is going to make me happy? It's not. No. It's not. I mean, that's the habit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I go in with good intentions and then just like I'm completely peer pressured by the advertising and the place being next to and the smell and and the poor willpower. I think it's a combination of those things.
It's a proper bugger though, because it's right by the till. It's not like you can kind of get past it to pay, right? So you have to.
Exactly, it's almost like they've done it deliberately to
it's like they know.
Yeah.
I found myself a while ago. I'd be the same. Like there's I'm not going to say the name because they don't sponsor us, and until they do, I'm not going to say the name of the local supermarket that's got a small version near my house where I live. Begins with an S and ends in an Uriz. But feel free to sponsor if you want for a lot of money. But basically, I found myself going in there during the first lockdown, and I'd stock up on just shit. And it wouldn't be something that I would be broadcasting when I went home. But I'd have like fruit pastels in my pocket, just in case I needed a bit of sugar hit and this and that and everything. And actually the way I got around it in the end was, what was quite useful in that sort of Sainsbury's local was the fact that I could just deviate my route to avoid that altogether. So that was really handy. And I don't know, I think it was Tesco's started like removing all of that crappy food from the tills, didn't they? So I had a route, and I knew that if I went in there, in all likelihood, I would come out with something in addition to what I went in there for. So I might have gone in there for pesto and come out with 10 bars of Yorkies and whatever. But with my other route, with the sort of the safe route, I'd only come out with maybe a bottle of water. And push comes to maybe a Diet Coke, and I the way I got around that was to have almost like an allowable list of things I could have, so as to not go in and completely deny that urge. And that worked really well for me, actually, because of the fact that I was still answering the call of the devil in my head of where, saying, no, you can have this, the willpower being low and leaving, but not having, the potential of consuming 10 Kinder Buenos because they're utterly delicious. So that really worked for me. But it is hard, especially in those smaller petrol stations when there are no aisles that you can sort of zigzag your way through to avoid it. But that's weirdly good to hear that you do that. I had no idea, Paul.
I'm bad with a lot of that sort of stuff, and I think I developed really bad habits of like if I wanted something, I went and got it. If I fancy that, there's no one telling me I can't have it, so I will. And
where do you think that originates from, though? Because I do the same.
I don't know. I think probably from childhood, I guess. Like, I'm an only child. My parents were quite it's a kind way to say it. They were quite hands off, let's say. But so I never had anyone sort of challenging me or telling me I couldn't do certain things. So yeah. Like I just sort of, I guess, learnt that if I wanted to eat something, I could, and so I did, and that was fine when I was young and running about and playing football and all that kind of stuff. And then, as soon as you start driving, and,
and visiting the service stations of the world.
Well, exactly. You've suddenly got access to every drive-through, everywhere. So I don't know. I think it's addictions as well. I think it's kind of bad habits, and like the obvious ones are stuff like first thing in the morning on the way to work, you pull into the petrol station. Like in the old, I had a pretty acute addiction to things like energy drinks and things like that when I was younger. But that's also stemmed with a health thing, because I've got quite bad obstructive sleep apnea as well, which I think meant that I always, because I was always exhausted, I always craved sugar and
pick you up.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't really know I had it. And that was a massive thing as well, because in recent years, we discovered this is what I had, and that explains a lot, because at university, for example, I was just sitting there like getting through lectures, like almost narcoleptic, really, because of having no sleep at night, but just sitting there with cans of Red Bull lined up just so that I could function.
Through the day. Yeah.
And I think, getting addicted to things like sugar and things that perk you up momentarily are not the best things to get addicted to.
Definitely not. Yeah. Definitely not. I found myself drinking more of the Diet Coke stuff. I'm allowed it on Slimming World, which is all right. But I've noticed that my, again, I know this is so simple, and of course, and it feels like I'm learning all the time when it comes to eating. But like the more of that I've had, the more I've wanted sugary things. And that's been the biggest change for me recently, is that, since maybe, I don't know, October, I've been having the occasional Diet Coke. And like I can find myself being like, I've got to have something sugary. So I limit to myself now to one a week, just as a little, pick me up a little bit of a treat. But it's, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier about, that the whole sugar addiction thing is just off the scale in terms of, is a massive issue, is a massive problem. And no matter what you put in it to say that there's no sugar, well, there's something in there that's still tricking your mind into thinking there is and making you crave something. So, yeah, man, it's good to hear in a really weird sort of weird way. It's good to hear, actually, Paul, that somebody I never knew went through that does experience the same thing, and that's where the podcast idea came from. So thanks for sharing that, mate.
No worries. Yeah.
What about you, Kofi? So, like, your relationship with food, do you expect? Because I'd be interested to know whether you have the same mental conversation with yourself when you're in a garage or when you're in a place where there's just options are endless for food. Is that the same for you? Like,
I've got to say, I absolutely love food. I absolutely love it. And if listening to what Paul was saying, I feel like some of, if I could call it like the impulses that you have, definitely resonate with me. Like when I go into the petrol station, it's just best thing for me to do is pay at the actual pump. Like don't go in if I can, because if I do go in, it's usually, and especially now, like you said, it's usually like, oh, like it's just a little treat, like king size Snickers or whatever it might be, like, and I'll get that. And I think I probably cycle so that I can eat wherever I want. That's the way I've worked it out, so like I've just told myself, like, you allowed it, but you've got to put the work in and be committed to the cycling, because my fear is that if you
go off the scale,
you go off the scale, and then it's hard to get it back. From anyone I know that's trying to lose weight, it's so hard to get it back down once you've gone the other way.
I think the whole thing's been a learning curve for me in terms of losing weight, but I think I don't mind admitting that I was completely naive about how to lose weight. I mean, the obvious thing is obviously reduce calories, and increase exercise. Of course, I knew that, but it was like, the nutritional value of things, and maybe historically I just didn't want to hear it, or maybe it should be taught more in schools. I don't know, but
Mm.
I've learned so much along the way about the body. And it was like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, well, you need to have a good supply of water through your body because that flushes all the toxins and stuff. And I was like, what? I need to drink more. And I looked on this app, and because of my height and my weight, it was saying I needed to drink nearly 5 liters of water a day. And I still don't know how I didn't lose weight that week, because I was in that toilet every 2.5 minutes because of the fact that it's 5 liters. But that's a bit too much information for any visual learners out there. But it's really, definitely been a learning curve.
I was going to say, Tom, I think you're totally right there. Like the bad stuff, the stuff that is sugary and like fattening and whatever, I find that is so much easier to come by, and also like less expensive to like get. Like for me, like seeing it in the shops, I think you've got to like make a massive concerted effort.
To avoid it.
Get that to avoid it.
Yeah, totally.
So
and
I think one of the things for me is I think that's completely right. It's so much harder, I think, in terms of convenience, at least, to eat healthily, because everything is set up to not, and financially and everything. One of the best things for me is when Harmony was born, because we make a concerted effort to all eat together for every meal, so that we don't have a separate thing for her. We just all sit down together and she has what we're having, which means that we are mindful about what we put in our food, so that it's she's not getting. And I think for me that was a massive turning point, because now I'm sort of caring about someone else and their food. I'm like, right, well, I don't want that going in your body. And then, of course, then I'm thinking, but I put it in mine, like all the time, So it changes your mindset on that a little bit, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's where this time round, I would say that the journey has been going on for about 4 years, which actually wraps up to around the time that Rufus was born. And and it puts your life into perspective. Of course, that's an understatement. When you become a dad or when you become a parent, you suddenly start thinking, okay. And I wanted to extend the time I was with my kids, and not keep doing the things that was going to reduce my time with them by eating poorly and not exercising. So I'm pleased that has happened, and I'm pleased it's still ongoing. But I think what has been really enlightening for me is the fact that I never really knew what could be considered a healthy or option in the sort of sense of needing something convenient. And I never really was bothered to do the research. And so the very last thing I did, the sort of final thing that I did before, the most recent thing, I suppose, it's a weird way of putting it, I joined Slimming World, and very reluctantly joined. It was sort of after having a bit of a breakdown and a bit of a moment of, I just don't know what to do anymore. I've tried this, I've gone and done this PT, and I've run over here and I hated it, and I did this and I hated it, and I went to my doctors and I just basically said, look, I need help. I'm trying to lose weight. It won't work for me. And they were great. They put me onto some counselling and stuff, which was awesome. But joining the whole Slimming World thing, and not to preach about that, this is not what the podcast is about, has really simplified food. And that has been incredibly useful. And they call it a lifestyle change rather than a diet, which I suppose is the healthier way of looking at it. But what I found was I would be going into those petrol stations, I would be going into those supermarkets with a bit of an arsenal of, right, well, I know I really want all that chocolatey shit there. But actually, I know if I want to lose the weight, I can just grab some watermelon or some fruit. That would be wicked. And get myself a pack of chicken. There you go. And, and that for me was my workaround. And it took a long time to get into that habit. I've lost it a little bit for some reason recently. I like the urge to have more sugary stuff, and the sort of the not so good stuff it's been quite significant. And I can only attribute that to the fact that this lockdown, this time, has been particularly tough, hasn't it? I don't know whether you're feeling it, but I think they're just knackered, aren't they? To put it bluntly.
Yeah. I think so. Well, I think those things that impact you, like when you feel tired, when you feel down, things that impact your life negatively. I know for me, the first thing I do is think, right, okay, like for me, if something bad happens to me, the first thing I want to do is like grab something unhealthy, and be like, right, that'll cheer me up for 5 minutes. I'll feel awful after I've had it.
Do you feel guilty?
Yeah, I do. I do feel guilty. I do that thing where I kind of I trick myself into justifying it to myself.
What, before or afterwards?
All the way through. So I almost go, right, well, this is the reason I'm going to have this, and that's okay. And then I have it, and then I'm feeling like, well, I probably shouldn't eat this. And then afterwards I'm like, well, okay, I can't do anything about it now, but like,
tomorrow I won't have that.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of, you trick yourself, and I think you're right. I think having funny because I actually did Slimming World just before Harmony was born, actually on the lead up to when she was born.
Right.
And I lost 3 stone doing
right.
Slimming. It was interesting. It was quite fun because I was like the only guy who did it in that particular one, and I had lots of like middle-aged women like to chat to every week when I went along to weigh in and stuff. I had mixed things with it. I think overall it's good. I think the thing is, I think you have to have a bit of sort of knowledge about stuff in general to do it right, because there were loads of people there doing it that were proper struggling because of the way the system works. I think that with Slimming World, for example, I think that the whole like sins thing, there were so many women there that were like, and I only say women because that's all the other people that were there were women. There was so many were like, well, I can have like 4 more sins today, so I'm gonna stop by and use them up on this. Like, and their thing was almost like it was to the kind of the rules rather than thinking about actually what they were having, So because they were allowed to have as much pasta as they want, they were gorging on pasta like every day, but then weighing in and not having lost any weight, and you're just like, well.
I think that's where I'm at. I mean, pasta is actually my weakness, and that's the one thing that I do have to be quite regimented with, because I could. It's just so lovely. I could just eat the whole bag, man. But I think what's really good about the group I go to, the lady who runs that, is look, your sins are there, but they're not to be. Don't use them all if you can avoid it, and that's that sentiment is sort of echoed all the time. But you're right. I mean, I don't know whether you experience this. For me, what I get from that is that support network more than anything else. And when I'm having
accountability, I think
100%.
Like weighing, getting weighed in every week, and sort of like, not having it announced, but sort of being put up against the people. There's almost a competitive thing about it, isn't there? There's like, right, well, I want to make sure I'm slimmer of the week this week, so I can get that cuddly toy home or whatever it is that they do.
I've had an argument with my scale, so we're not talking at the moment. I mean, as well. So it was a bit of a Elliot, who appeared on one of the other earlier podcasts, is a fantastic personal trainer, and he and I box together, and he teaches me to box, and that's where my fitness journey started, if you like. And I was texting him, mate, I'm really struggling at the minute. He was like, look, don't step on your scales. Put your work shirt on that you haven't worn for however many weeks. Put your work trousers on that you haven't worn for so many weeks. See how they fit. So I put them on, and these are new shirts I've had to buy since losing weight. I put them on. They fucking fit, and they're still baggy, So that was a real moment of my weight on the scales was saying that I gained and then gained again, but only by a pound here and there, and that was really bothering me. And I was having really good weeks, not perfect, but good. I was walking. I've just done a fundraising thing for War Child, and a friend of mine and I we collaborated, and we walked 400 miles together in January. So I knew I was putting the effort in movement-wise. I was putting some mileage down. I was doing my regular weekly virtual PT session where I did my weight. I was drinking 5 litres of water a day. Just doing all these things. But no, your body's not interested. So, I've moved away from it for a minute. I'm always fearful of falling into old habits. I'm always fearful of putting on that weight that I've lost. I've nearly lost 3 stone. I've been teetering on that edge for quite some time.
It's really good time.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. Although, if you'd have asked me last week what my successes have been, I could not have told you for whatever reason. But yeah, it's fascinating to hear, Paul, how many comparisons there are between you and I, actually, when it comes to what we've been doing. So we should totally chat again. Maybe not on a podcast, though, but that's good to hear. Kofi, I know you're an incredibly active person. You clearly have a similar relationship to food that we have, in that you want to go in and eat all of the Snickers. And
I think as well, like I want to put in there, I find that what's bad as well is if I ever go to the shops and I'm hungry when I get there, it's just a recipe for disaster, because I will have a shopping list, but everything looks good, right? Everything looks good and everything's going in the trolley. So that's why
you only went in for bacon or something, and you come out with 10 croissants, jammy dodgers,
a loaf of bread. I just need a loaf of bread and some eggs. That's all, and I've come back with like £100 worth of shopping of snacks, sweets.
Yeah. My wife doesn't let me go shopping anymore. I went just before Christmas, and I was like, but we needed cheese footballs. Like, it's Christmas. But it's part of the whole podcast thing is it's good to hear, I think, other people saying the same things. I keep saying it, I know, but that's where this came from. But and you must, I mean, with regards to your, I mean, how many miles do you cycle a week, Kofi? Because you got all the gear. You're part of a global cycling. Do you call it a global cycling group, family?
Yeah, community, network. I don't know, some family. It's become a bit like a family, actually. And I think the lovely thing about it, maybe similar to Slimming World, is just the support network that it gives.
I bet. So what sort of, have you got a road bike, or are you a hybrid, or are you a mountain bike guy, or?
Yeah, I'm a road bike person. So that's like, when I was a kid, I had a bike and toured around with that. And I think, what was it, 2005, through like ride to work or cycle to work, I got a road bike and then started to commute with it.
Okay, cool.
And then started to set myself challenges like to do London to Brighton, and then again, and then London, Brighton back, and then did a ride to Paris to raise some money for Macmillan Cancer, and then just set myself different goals and targets. But on average, to your question, on a weekly basis, probably at the moment, I'm hovering at around 80 miles or so.
A week?
A week, but that's mainly indoors, which isn't my preferred mode, but needs must because of, I guess, lockdown and homeschooling and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, of course. I think that's still impressive, though, that, I guess often the urge to not do it when you're at home is probably quite high. But it's very impressive to maintain such a high mileage number when you're still indoors. So good on you, mate. But I mean, how often do you get out on the road? Yeah,
so when the weather was better, it would probably be like, I don't know, 3 Sundays in 4. But before lockdown, I'd commute to work on the bike. So that was my thing. So,
and how far's the commute?
It would be 10 miles each way.
Okay, wow, pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, you don't look like you're a particularly heavy set type of person, anyway. But do you notice that there's what your weight maintains, because obviously of all the Snickers that you eat. But like, do you notice? I mean, when you first started doing cycling more regularly, did you notice a change in your body weight? Because I have a bike as well, and I've heard cycling is good for your, for weight loss. It seems like it's a pretty good way of exercising. And like you, I don't like going out in the dark necessarily. I don't like going out in crappy weather. It's just not cool to do that. But it is nice to go out on a bike ride. And now the boys have got their little seats on the back as well. That's quite fun. But did you notice a real change in your fitness? How quick did that come about? Like, would you recommend it basically to someone who's trying to lose weight?
I would. I think initially, it's probably what turned me on to trying to think a bit more healthily about the food that I was eating, because I wasn't particularly educated about what constituted healthy food and what didn't. And so when I started and I was like commuting to work, it just completely knackered me. So I'd get to work and I'd just be like absolutely shattered. And of course, pick me up, it's like sweets and crap and whatever I can eat to just boost me back up again. And then there's one colleague that I had who was like properly, ripped and chiseled and stuff. And he was like, you don't want to be eating like the sort of cereals that like Cocoa Pops and stuff like that. He was like, you need to go for more slow releasing stuff like porridge and things like that. So I started to sort of switch my food up on that basis. And over time, I found that, I was able to have more energy and ride further. And then I introduced like eating while I was riding as well. But in terms of weight loss, I think it's because I've maybe kept it quite consistent with the distance that I do. I don't stand on scales too much, but I broadly stay within like a bound of maybe plus or minus 2 kilograms from about 82.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Numbers that we can dream of, Paul.
I was about 12, man.
I was bigger. I was definitely bigger before. So I think before I started riding, I was like 90 kilograms or so. And at that time, it was like post uni. I was all into like muscles and whatever. But I don't know. I got to this point where I was like, I just want to be like operationally fit, like be able to chase after the kids rather than look the part and then die trying to chase after them, So then the weight kind of came off because I stopped doing the gym stuff and did more cycling.
I actually noticed when I was in my funk about like, I haven't got any successes, or I'll keep putting weight on. I don't know why I sounded like a Peaky Blinder when I said that, but I totally had that like within the last week. It was nothing's going right, and it was, who was it that put me onto it? It was I was doing. Oh, yeah, it was the lady from Slimming World said, "Well, you're telling me there's no non-scale victories, but you've just walked 400 miles. You've added 5 notches to your belt. Blah 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 blah." And it was the guy I've been walking with, Billy, who said, despite how you're feeling, I bet when you're walking up, because we obviously haven't been walking together. We live, about half hour away from each other, and it's obviously we're not allowed to. But he said, look, I bet there's a route with a really massive hill. And he said, and I bet you're going up that hill now. And when you get to the top, you're going to be puffed out because that's normal. And that would be normal for any one of us in this conversation now. And he said, but I bet you recover quicker. Next time you do, he said, go out, find a route, see how you feel at the top. And I did that. I actually took Ant out, Paul. We met week before last maybe, and he came around. We did a night walk around my area because he doesn't live too far. And he actually at one point was like, mate, you need to slow down. And we were going up this hill. You just need to slow down. I can't keep up with you. And like that for me was a real light bulb moment of, wow, like actually my body is changing and is adapting. That's and I am fitter. I'm still quite large.
Ant's quite fit as well. And Ant's not a
he's not a shrinking violet, is he?
No. So yeah, that's good, man.
I think you need that. You need that, Tom. I think you need like the mind for me has become something that I recognise is like supremely powerful, like so powerful. And I think whether it's games that you play or goals that you set yourself, you need these reminders of the progress that you're making. And,
I most certainly do. I've learned that this lockdown, like in all of the lockdowns. Sorry, I need that. Yeah. And I don't know whether normally I get that from on stage with that sort of like confirmation of, you're good, people are clapping.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's why it's been hard on this third lockdown. I don't know. But I don't know whether Paul feels the same, that there's that. It's not a constant need for praise, but I most certainly need a jolt every now and then of, this is good.
Completely. I think that there are things in your life that you need that make you feel confident and make you feel, it's like validation, but like, in a not quite as crude a way as I suppose it might sound, but it's kind of like you performing and being on stage is something that makes me feel confident. It makes me feel, liked or attractive or whatever the word is. I enjoy doing it, and it makes me, getting that kind of response is good. And I think everyone has their own versions of that. I think so. Like with weight loss, for sure. Like I think that. For some people, it's maybe like people complimenting them, going, "Oh, you're looking really good." Like someone you haven't seen for a little while who noticed that you look different, or like you say, like the fact that clothes fit a bit better. Or I mean, a good example is I started my resolutions. I don't do my resolutions in January like a lot of people do because I think it's dumb doing resolutions in January. January's dark and cold, and everyone's depressed because they haven't got any money and they've had Christmas, and tax is coming up and all that kind of shit. Yeah. And so I think, you know what, I'm going to drink my way through January so that I just survive it. And then 1st of February is when I go, right now I'm going to improve. And so February so far is for me been I've started running again, and I've lost 7 pounds in February so far because I've just started. And I know that it drops off quicker to start with, but also what's crazy is that the run I did on like the 1st of February, I've done the same run 3 times. It's only about like 2 miles or whatever, just to ease myself in. But I ran today, and I smashed it. I knocked 2 minutes off it. I did it all without feeling I needed to stop, and I felt a lot better about it. And that was my little reward. I got in going, actually, I did all right. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
but so there must have been points though, Paul, when you were starting out again. I know we're 6 days into Feb, but there were, maybe correct me if there weren't, but there must have been points within those first couple of runs where was your brain saying to you, do you know what, Paul, why are you doing this? Let's just not bother. Or maybe not, let's not bother, but there must have been a moment where it was like, this is so hard, I don't know if I can do this.
Well, so my relationship with running is that constantly though. Like I'm someone who I hate running, and I've never ever enjoyed it. And there's never a moment that I'm running that I don't wish that I wasn't running, if you know what I mean. Like I'm always going, and I've had to trick myself or find the things in it. And those rewards are that it's that mental
that achievement.
Yeah. That sort of conditioning that you have to sort of give yourself by appreciating or finding the rewards elsewhere. Like the feeling good that you did it is the reward, you know. So even though I'm hating every second of doing it, when I get in, I go, but I'm glad I did it. That was good.
Yeah. Well, I now fully understand why when Ant and Kofi Ant is a mutual friend of Paul and I. And he was on an earlier podcast as well, and he's a member of my band. He's all round fantastic guy. And
everyone's band.
Yeah, he is. And now I can totally appreciate why when he started doing all of his exercise and he changed his lifestyle, for the better. I totally get now why there was a post every other day going, "Oh, I've just run this amount of and I can lift this and it's really heavy." And every gig that we turn up to, he'd be like, "Do you want to feel my arms?" And then we'd be like, "Mate, we saw you yesterday." No, do you want to feel my arm? So we would constantly having to squeeze his bicep. But I get that now because that was his validation, and he has said, that was his way of having people. I totally understand that now, and I was pleased for him at the time, but I was a bit like, "Oh, come on, Ant, just come on." I saw you yesterday. I know you've done a run. Well done. But I totally understand that now. So, I fully respect the need for that accolade, albeit a verbal one from somebody. So, but yeah, Paul, it would be wicked if at this point in the pod, I know that you've prepared a piece of music for us. Obviously, because of the perils of lockdown, we aren't in the studio, which would have been well convenient for you to come to the studio, actually, because for you, that would have been like a 5-minute journey. It's in East Moreland.
Right.
So it's not far at all. But I know that you've sorted something out for us to have a listen to. So at this point, it'd be wicked if you could just sort of introduce it, tell us what it is, where it's come from, and we'll have a listen.
Yeah, cool. So, unfortunately, like doing live wasn't an option today, mainly because my daughter's directly above me, like fast asleep, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so earlier in the lockdown, one of the few things I've managed to do with the guys in One Day Elliott is we put together a track. We did an acoustic thing where we kind of collaborated. We all recorded our parts at home on our phones, and then we put them together. So it's kind of like a live recording, but virtually, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is our track. So far, so good. We originally did it because Hero Fest, which is a festival that actually I know, Tom, you play, and actually co-organised by our friend Ant, who we've just mentioned. It was going to be a particularly big, good one this year, and it didn't happen. Not this year, last year. It didn't happen because of obvious reasons. So we kind of did this in mind because we thought, it's a shame we can't get to play that. So we put this together, and so yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Well, here it is then. So Far, So Good by One Day Elliott.
And I know they're wrong. It's been so far, so good. It's been so far, so good. It's been so
I don't care what they say, I still want you.
It's been so
I don't care what they say, I still want you.
It's been so
I don't care what they say, I still want you.
It's been so
I don't care what they say, I still want you.
It's been
There we go. There it is. So far, so good by One Day Elliott. Thank you very much for sending in that track. And of course, if anybody listening wants to check out One Day Elliott, how can they find more of your fabulous tunes?
If you go on the old internet and type in One Day Elliott, you'll find loads of stuff, probably our website and YouTube videos that we haven't posted up, but other people have probably.
Cool.
Facebook, website, all the usual places.
All right, lovely. And have you got, well, I mean, obviously a lockdown depending, have you got any shows or any tours in the pipeline next year or so, anything?
Do you know what? With One Day Elliott, nothing booked. We've got plenty of Brothers from Undercovers gigs penciled in, depending on whether weddings go ahead and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, all the rescheduled ones from last year. But yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And you've got another little project that well, I say little, but you've just started something else as well, a cool little project. Tell us a little bit about Rocket Up.
Oh, yeah, now. So Rocket Up is an idea that I've had in my head for years and years and years and never really found myself in the position to be able to do it. And lockdown just seemed to be a good time. I do it with my partner in crime, Phil James, who is not a relation, but we just have very, very similar names. And I'm very lucky because he's an absolute monster. And
He is quite talented.
He's ridiculous. He can play everything and he produces really well. So it's nice because it's almost like wherever I go, can you play this? He's like, yeah. And it makes it really easy. But yeah, so the idea of Rocket Up, it's kind of stupid. But it's the premise is there's these two middle-aged guys who have been pretty sheltered all their lives, just living in a flat and listening and playing rock music. And it's only recently occurred to them that there's music out there that isn't rock music, and naturally they're pretty perplexed by this and are confused and don't understand why this would be, and so they set up what they believe is an essential service where people can request them to rock up songs that are not rock, to I guess purify them or something, I don't know. But yeah, so each episode is them kind of getting a letter from someone, and then they turn, but they're ridiculous. So far, some of the episodes have been like the Fireman Sam theme tune, and there's a version of the Gruffalo that's done like Rage Against the Machine,
like that,
and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I hope it's funny. People seem to be laughing at it, which is good. I hope in the right way. But I mean, I guess it's kind of like Wayne's World meets Spinal Tap, but not as good as either of those things. But yeah, that's the premise. And
Well, I like it, and
if you go and check out Rocket Up,
Yeah,
and
do it. It's
have
really
a
good
look,
stuff.
that'd be great. But
Yeah,
it's
it's
been a lot of
fun.
fun. More recently, we've had to do the last couple completely isolated, so that's been a challenge. So we've both got green screens in our houses, and we've recorded all our parts at home and videoed all our parts at home, and then just sort of sent it across. So
Nice.
That's
good.
clever, man.
Yeah, really
Check that
clever.
out.
It's the
Rocket
time to
up.
Yeah, rocket up.
like a space rocket up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's well worth checking out. And Kofi, send a song request in, and they'll rock it up for you.
I love that.
Anything
See what we can do.
You can
Yeah,
do it. I reckon they'll do anything. I reckon anything at all. All right. Well, that again, I thoroughly endorse that, and I suggest anybody listening takes a look at the YouTube page and has a listen to some of that. It's brilliant. And as you say, it's funny. It's just also very entertaining, especially right now where people need a bit of a giggle and something to do. So good on you for doing it, mate. It's wicked fun. So Kofi, I want to go back to Ride for Unity. And I know the origins. I know we've discussed sort of where it came from, why it came about. And I know based on sort of the conversations we had prior to the recording tonight that it's gone global. But how does it work? What is it? Like, I know what it is, but how does it function?
Yeah, I suppose there are probably like 3 or 4 key parts to it. So the start of it was effectively a way to bring people together riding indoors or outdoors. So if you ride indoors, you might use like a turbo trainer to do that. And because we were in lockdown, I figured why not bring people together, because people would have been used to being riding with their mates, but couldn't do that anymore. So you'd ride indoors and we have like a Zoom call at the same time. So you can chat to people about bikes and various other bits of banter,
right,
and have a laugh to pass the time. So it's like 45 minutes on a Wednesday, 45 minutes now on a Friday. It's expanded because it just was a Wednesday before.
Okay.
If you don't do the indoor training thing, you can ride 45 minutes anywhere outdoors and just tag it on whatever tracking app you use as Ride for Unity to get involved and spread positivity. And on the back of that, there's a Strava cycling club. If anyone uses Strava, Ride for Unity. So every week, just as a bit of fun, I do like a top 10 league table.
All right. Okay.
To show where people are. So it's a bit of competitiveness, but it's a bit of fun. And yeah, you see that there are loads of people around the world that have got into that. And then the second thing we did was back in August, when permission and conditions permitted, we actually had a series of Ride for Unity events around the world. So it went to LA, it was in New York, South Africa, Edinburgh, a couple in London as well, where like, I guess, ambassadors or family members, if you will, just took it upon themselves, with support to arrange local rides, just to sort of spread the good feeling and the camaraderie.
Yeah.
That's the second. And then the third thing that I do, which I think is probably the most important thing, is on a Friday night, I host something called Cycling Chats, which you might have seen on Instagram. Where to celebrate our unity and our diversity, I've really looked to shift the dial and talk to a broad range of cyclists from across the spectrum of sex, shade, size, shape, professionality, you name it, we talk to them. And the idea behind it is it's all about representation. It's all about representation, because I really believe that if you can see it, then you can believe it. So if I see somebody, I'm thinking, that looks a bit like me, and they tell their story and their journey, then that might encourage me to think, well, you know what, like Tom did it or Paul did it, why can't I,
Yeah.
So we do that. It's lighthearted. We try and make it a bit humorous, but through hearing those stories, it encourages other people to do stuff. And then the fourth and last thing is we've now got some clothing as well. So if you want to participate and buy cycling clothing or some t-shirts or some socks, you can do that. And then
I'm going to get some socks. I've just checked. You don't have my size for the big.
Oh no! What size are you?
Well, I'm a 3XL. I'm maybe maybe I should do the 2XL. And work downwards. But yeah, the socks will fit for now. But we'll work towards the t-shirt.
Soon.
Tell me, yeah, soon, definitely. That's the dream anyway. You also have a charity, or no, you have a charity partnership, I should say.
That's right. Right.
So tell us about the charity. Is it Laureus? Larius?
That's it. Yeah, Laureus. So yeah, it's basically a lot of this stuff has kind of happened organically. I didn't start off with a plan and a strategy for it, but as I was doing it, people would ask me, like, is there a way that we can contribute to the work that you're doing and whatever? And to be honest, I don't feel like I need the money, so it's not for me. But I thought that actually it'd be great to use the cycling sport that we're in for good. And Laureus, as a charity, had 200 programs in 40 different countries where they use sport literally for good. So they try and alleviate discrimination, violence. They run education programs and stuff. So through partnering with them, when you buy any of the clothing, the Ride for Unity clothing, like 20% of all sales goes to the work that they do. Because like many other charities, you know, the big ticket things that they would have done before to raise money, they can't do.
No.
So this is just a way of being able to give back to other people and help the kids.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's good. I mean, and like you say, you know, it's not that you started out with any intention to, you know, to have a charity partnership, but I love the fact that you have put something together out of, you know, what was such a terrible. I always feel like I'm undervaluing what happened, but you know, such a terrible thing, and so much good has come from it. And you know, I think that's the mark of you, very much so, and that's the impression I've got. You know, you're driven and really well done, mate. Because it's to go global with something like this. It takes a lot of effort, you know, and maybe you're underselling your input so much, but you know, the initial acorn that, you know, was all on you. So
I've got to say,
sounds fantastic.
Thank you. I have to say it's a massive team effort, because like it would have been called something completely else if my wife hadn't got involved and stopped me from using so many words. So she came up with the name. My brother-in-law Luke, he's a designer. He's got his own creative sort of agency. He helped me come up with the logo, and then through the input of other people, it's allowed that sort of intersection between like the passion that I've got for cycling and the purpose that I've now built with this. Yeah, and it's like a massive collaboration. So yeah, like I love it. So it doesn't feel like work.
No,
but then with people chipping in and sharing ideas,
it makes
it's become what it's become. Really,
really become bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's a bit like, I think it's a bit like anything, because when I was trying to think of the name for this podcast, I was like, there were some dreadful name ideas. Honestly, like awful. And it was, and this has been documented on many podcasts, but it was Ant who came up with of course. And is king of puns, and he was like, well, you know, why don't you call it the Wedding Thinners, because you're a wedding singer most of the time, so it just works. So so it was that, and then again, like you, friend designed the logo, and another. Oh, Ant wrote the theme tune. And practically, why is Ant not here? Why is Ant not doing
this?
He
should be. He's your right-hand man.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of people to thank for helping me to get to this point as well, and you know, and it's the people behind the scenes sometimes that maybe don't get the thanks. So, but yeah, I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing, and when it's warmer weather, it will most certainly give me another reason to get out on the bike, and I will definitely join you for one of them. I can't say I'm going to do loads of miles, but I'll do my very, very best to do something.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll definitely get involved. And you know, like I always say towards the end of the podcast, if there's, from either of you, if there's ever anything that you want to share, if there's any fundraising things you want to put on any of our pages, please do so. And for anybody listening, you know, our social media pages, we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. If you type in The Wedding Thinners on both of those sites, you'll find us, and do give us a follow. And you'll also be able to find out way more about what Kofi's doing with Road for Unity, and Paul and his many bands, and his many other talents as well. So Paul, you know, we're going to sort of wrap things up very swiftly, but very soon, I should say. But I know that you've been teaching as well, and you know, you have gone obviously from being a musician who's quite busy, especially with you know, your functions and covers band, and you've gone to very, like, it's probably gone from busy to very little, but you've adapted your teaching, because you teach singing. Is that right?
So basically, I mean, I went down to about like 10% of the work that I would do. Yeah, I mean, in nearly everywhere I work, everything just closed, everything just stopped. You know, all the schools that I work in, or the university or whatever, like all just kind of stopped. You know, I couldn't go into anywhere. So, I mean, I was very limited because my wife's charity became more busy because she had to then move everything online. I didn't really have much time to do work, but the one sort of day a week where I get to do stuff, I've started doing a bit of teaching singing over Zoom and stuff like that, which is a challenge because obviously there's a time delay, and that makes it very difficult. So I have to send all the backing tracks and things to the students first, so they can sing along with them at their house, rather than me playing them my own. So I've done that. So I've got a few students that have kept on doing that. I still do the music stuff for my wife's charity. We do like music videos every month with their singing workshop. So the crazy thing with that is I ran a monthly singing workshop with them where I turn up for like, it'd be a few hours, like on a Saturday morning once a month. And, I'd do a song with them that I'd arranged. And by the end of the session, we'd done the song, the parents would come in, listen to it, and everyone be happy. Whereas doing it online to make a music video suddenly becomes like a 4-day bit of work almost, because you have to like arrange the song, record a backing track, record a tutorial video and edit that together, send it to them, get them all to send a video of them singing it back to you, and then make an audio and then edit all that together to make a video. So it suddenly becomes like a massive ordeal.
Well, at least you've retrained. So
I've had to learn. I'm so technophobic. I've had to learn how to do so much stuff. In lockdown, I've got loads of new skills, which has been one of the many sort of positives that have come from it for me. So that's good. So I've been trying to get a little bit of money coming in by maintaining some of the work that I had, but of course, nearly everything else just vanished. But in a lot of ways, it's good because I think we needed a bit of a break. We were both just so busy and. Passing harmony between us, in car parks when one of us was going to work, the other one was coming home, and it was mental. Whereas I think this kind of forced us into going, right, well, we got to stop. And my life now is I spend 24/7 with my daughter, and that's great.
It's awesome.
Magic times, though.
Definitely. And that age, and they are at the age, aren't they, where fantastic things regularly happen, and fantastic things are regularly said, and things that make you cry with laughter. It's the best of times. You're training for a marathon as well. What marathon are you training for?
Oh, right. So
is it a charity thing you're doing?
Yeah, well, again, it's for Square Pegs. This is for my wife's charity. I was supposed to do the Brighton Marathon in April 2020, and I was furious because, I mean, as you know, Tom, you know me, and anyone who's listening that knows me knows I'm the least likely person to run a marathon ever. I hate running. I'm not built for moving in any sort of manner. But so I agreed to do it because I thought, well, I'll probably end up raising quite a lot of money because everyone will just not think I'll be able to do it. And I was training really hard all over last winter. I was building it up, and I did 2 half marathons the week before lockdown kicked in.
Wow.
And then lockdown happened, and I was like, oh, okay. And then the marathon got cancelled, postponed to September,
right.
Which I was like, oh, right, well, I've got 6 months left to sort of like to train. Okay, that's sort of quite good. And then it looked like that was going to get cancelled, and then it just knocked all the wind out your sails, and then I kind of just stopped running, and then it got postponed to April this year, and then it's been postponed to September this year. So wow. I'm running the Brighton Marathon in September of this year if it happens, but I'm kind of starting again. Right. So I'm hoping it won't take as long to get back to where I was. But yeah, and as I said earlier, I'm not someone that I always hate running, but I found some of the things within it that are okay. So I think, when you're doing those long runs, when you're doing like 10, 15 miles or whatever, I think sometimes just like having music playing in your ears, and I got to the point where I wasn't fast or anything, but I could plod along indefinitely for a long amount of time, and I think that was good because I could just listen to music, be on my own, run along the river or whatever, and it was okay. So it's just finding those things that allow you to be able to do it, and it's definitely a mental thing rather than a physical thing when you get to that point.
Yeah. That's so hard. Like I keep hats off to you. Like running, I don't mess with that stuff. That is so hard.
Yeah, it's not for me either.
But this is another reason why I really want to lose weight, because I think doing that, because at the moment I'm about 18 stone, and I think that and when I was doing that before, I was still like 17 stone or whatever at that time, and I think running that much when you're that heavy it's really, really hard. So if I can lose a bit of weight, I'm hoping it might get a bit easier, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Once you've done it, switch over to the dark side and come and get a bike and
Get on the bike, Paul.
I'm inspired to get a bike. I feel a bit embarrassed because I had a rally chopper when I was a kid.
Yes, with the thing in the middle.
About 13, and then I buckled it, and I never repaired it, and I haven't been on a bike since that day.
Have you still got it though?
Somewhere in my mum's garage.
So we could conceivably say, get to the chopper.
You could say that,
One day. No, but I mean, like, if you repair it and you can get it roadworthy, that could be a thing. Surely that's an incentive.
Otherwise, you'd have to do it in the accent, though.
To the chopper!
Exactly.
That's the shittest Schwarzenegger in the world.
It's brilliant. That was really good, man. Much better than mine.
Thank you very much. I am available for voiceover work and Schwarzenegger impersonations.
Well, I'm going to get you a job, right? I'm going to get you a job, so we sort that out.
Yeah, cool.
Voiceovers.
Yeah, that's it. Well, in the lift, like, floor 2. I could do all that.
But it's got to be floor 2. It's got to be that.
Get down when you're going down. Yeah, got it. Cool. So you can tell it's getting late when it gets weirder and weirder with the conversation. But
Cool.
I just want to finish up by saying a massive thank you to both of you for joining us this evening. It is this evening, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to hear your stories and to hear the inspiring things that that Kofi's doing with Ride for Unity. And as I say, when summer comes or when the warmer weather is about, I'll get out on the bike and I'll join you on Strava. You might have to talk me through Strava. I'm sure it's quite simple, but it would be cool to go and do that. And Paul, with all your stuff that you're doing as well with Square Pegs and with your Rocket Up and your One Day Elliot, I'm absolutely in awe of somebody that's still creating and is still, maintaining that creativity in such hard times, mate. And I think what you should do, I mean, you don't have to, but I think if your Brighton Marathon is cancelled in September again, I think you should still run 20, is it 27.5 miles a marathon?
26.5,
26.5. Or do 27, round it up.
Round out,
If you're going to do 26.5, you might as well do 27.
Although when I put 26.5 point and then someone's going, just go another half mile, I might get angry. But
well, I won't be there doing that. But I'm saying it's easy to do an extra half mile, having never run a marathon, and I will not ever be doing a marathon. But maybe do that instead. Do a Just Giving page, and you could still raise a load of cash. I reckon people would donate. I will, most certainly.
Me too.
So and when you're near, mate, just give us a shout, and I'll bung a couple of quid your way, mate. So
we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks,
I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm pleased you're both keeping safe and well in such uncertainty. And I want to say thank you to anybody that's been listening. Before we do sign off, though, Kofi, can you just remind us how people can get involved with Ride for Unity?
Yeah, the main way really would be via Instagram. That's where a lot of the communication happens. So it's Ride and then the number 4 and then Unity, like how the cool kids do it.
Very cool. All right. And also your charity partnership. If people want to go to wiggle.co.uk, if they want to buy some of your branded clothing, it's DHB and then Ride for Unity. So they can check it out there. And 20% of what you buy there goes to Laureus, that fantastic charity doing so much. So, if you are inclined to wear the odd cycling garment, then by DHB, why not? But also, if you just want to help raise money for a wicked charity, then head down to wiggle.co.uk.
Thanks,
and Paul, with One Day Elliot, people can just Google that and find the beauty that is.
There's loads of stuff online, Spotify, all that sort of stuff. Have a look.
And Square Pegs, what can we do if we want to find more about them as well?
Go to squarepegsarts.com, and they do amazing work. I know it's my wife's charity, but they do.
Really,
and it's incredible, and they could do with support, because obviously lockdown hits charities really hard because of funding and all that stuff. So check them out, give them some support, and that'd be great.
Brilliant. Well, listen, chaps, thank you both very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and that's it. I think episode 15 we're done with. Woohoo!
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
The Wedding Thinners podcast. Listen to our podcast. The buffets close. Wear smaller clothes.